The last house on Ash Street. They say there's something wrong with Ash Street. It looks like any other street. Old houses with sagging porches, cracked sidewalks, and trees that lean just a little too far over the road. But if you ask anyone who's lived in town long enough, they'll tell you, don't trick-or-treat past the 5th house on the left. That's where it happened. That's where it all began, back in 1957. Halloween in the 50s was different. Kids wore plastic masks with rubber bands that snapped against their skin. Porch lights glowed warm orange, and every yard smelled of burning leaves. That night, 4 kids, Tommy, Ruthie, Danny, and Glenn, were making their way down Maple and Elm, bags full of candy and pockets full of mischief. They'd hit every block, and the moon was starting to sink behind the trees. Tommy, the oldest, wasn't ready to call it quits. He said, "Let's try Ash Street. I heard the people down there give out full-size bars." Ruthie wrinkled her nose. "My dad says not to go down there. Said something bad happened a long time ago." Tommy grinned. "Come on, you scared?" Ash Street sat on the edge of town, quieter than the rest, darker too. A line of houses crouched beneath oak trees, their branches hanging low and heavy. The first few houses were fine, a couple of porch lights still on, friendly neighbors handing out taffy and popcorn balls. But the farther they went, the fewer lights there were. Then they saw it. At the very end of the street, a house with one porch light glowing dim yellow through the fog. It looked freshly painted, but too clean, like someone was trying to make it look normal. There were pumpkins on the steps, all carved the same, wide eyes and crooked smiles. Danny whispered, "You sure about this?" Tommy said, "It's just a house." He walked up the creaking steps and rang the bell. The door opened almost immediately. A tall man stood there, too thin, too pale, wearing suspenders and a shirt buttoned all the way to his throat. His hair was slicked back and his smile was wrong. "Well, ain't you kids something?" he said in a soft drawl. "Out late, aren't you?" Tommy held out his candy bag. "Trick or treat, sir." The man's smile didn't move. "Trick or treat," he repeated slowly, like he was tasting the words. Then he looked at each of them, one by one, his eyes glinting strangely in the porch light. Ruthie felt the hair rise on her arms. She said, "We should go." But the man tilted his head. "No need to rush off. I've got something real special for you." He turned back into the house. They heard something metallic scrape against the floor, a slow dragging sound. Danny whispered, "What's he doing?" Tommy took a step back. "Forget it, we're leaving." That's when the porch light flickered and went out. The sound of boots hit the porch. Then came the whistle, a slow off-key tune, lazy and cheerful, except it wasn't. The door swung wide open. The man stepped out, holding something long in his hand, a hook or maybe a knife. The kids screamed and ran. They tore down Ash Street, their shoes slapping the pavement, candy flying everywhere. Behind them, the whistle followed, echoing through the fog. When they reached Maple Street, they didn't stop running until they were under the safety of their porch lights again. When their parents checked, the kids were shaking, pale, and half their candy was gone. But no one believed their story. The police said the man who lived on Ash Street had moved away years ago. The house was supposed to be empty. The next morning, the sheriff went to check. The door was open. The house was cold and empty, floors covered in dust, like no one had lived there in decades. But outside, in the damp soil near the porch, were 4 sets of small footprints, and beside them, a man's. Big, deep, barefoot. The kids never went trick-or-treating again. Tommy moved away 2 years later. Ruthie said she'd wake up at night to the sound of that whistle outside her window. She said it always stopped the moment she looked out. Years passed, houses changed hands, but the last house on Ash Street stayed empty. The lawn always overgrown, the porch light still wired but never lit. That is, until recently. Neighbors say every few years the light comes back on by itself, just for one night. Sometimes a jack-o'-lantern appears on the steps, and every now and then, trick-or-treaters who don't know better, new kids, outsiders, wander up there. They always knock once. They always say the same thing later. The man who answered didn't look like he was wearing a costume. So if you're out trick-or-treating this Halloween, and you end up on Ash Street, don't go past the 5th house on the left, even if the porch light's on, even if there's candy waiting on the step, because the man who answers that door has been waiting a long time, and somewhere in the dark that whistle still echoes, off-key, slow and smiling, drifting down Ash Street like it never really ended.